How's it going?
Yeah, going well. Can't complain.
Welcome to RASA.
Thank you.
Welcome to Community Night.
Thank you.
Welcome to week 2 of this experiment of ours.
Let's go.
We've been talking for a while, and what would I say? I think you are the person I turn to for like proper music industry knowledge.
Oh, that's a compliment.
Yes. So we've got a lot to cover. It's just going to be an hour today.
That's fine.
I think hopefully we can do this a lot. What I'm thinking is we've got these 3 pillars for community night. Let's just start with love the community. What does that mean to you?
Ooh, love the community usually means getting involved, to start off with.
Okay.
Also, having a deep, I guess conviction is a strong word, but a commitment to being involved and bettering it. I don't know. It's actually hard to encapsulate in words because it's more of an emotion.
Yep.
Right? But I think community comes out a lot, especially in music industry talk. It's let's be honest, without community, it's really hard to share music.
Yes.
But I think all too often we use it as a super rosy picture, and sometimes it's actually hard to be part of a community, right? Because you're getting honest feedback loops, you get to see both the good and the bad part of a community, and when you really love something, you have to embrace all sides of it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think that, at least for me, we're trying to run a real community here. I definitely feel like we...
Wait. Well, what's a fake community look like to you?
Well, I think we get people messaging us a lot saying, we love your community. Can we just book them for our venue? So I think when community equals mailing list, I think that's where, for me, I've just tried to develop a little bit more of a sense of like, okay, I think it's cool going to new venues. I think it's cool working with new people. And I think a lot of the time you've got to take a chance when you do something new. But maybe for me, I definitely have been a bit more... ask a few more questions these days before we go and sign up for something new. I think, look, we're in RASA, which is a new space, but with some familiar people. And that's kind of what did it for me in terms of moving here. So, you operate a few different brands as part of Civilian Affairs. So talk to me like, why do you operate in the space you operate in? Like, what are some of the considerations you have?
Sure. Before I jump into that, though, I want to say what you actually said about being a bit careful who you share your community with. So protecting your community. I think that's a huge part of loving your community, right?
Okay.
You don't necessarily need to be a gatekeeper or, keep people out, but if you know you have something special that people may take advantage of, protecting them from that sort of exploitation is a super important part of that. To your question around civilian affairs and kind of how we approach the brands, in general, we started civilian affairs from having events, basically small house parties in COVID, and we kept it to like the legal amount of people we could have.
Yes.
But we are fortunate enough to live in a home that has a second room that serves as like our dance floor. And I think we realized during that time we were building a community then, very, very small, 2 to 8 people, depending on what time of the pandemic it was.
Yep.
And then it was my first birthday post-pandemic where we did that. I think you came for that potluck. Maybe.
Oh, no. But I was definitely stalking you guys before when we were setting up the studio.
Okay.
And I saw some of those very early streams you were doing.
I think, it was, that's right, and that was part of the building. We worked with Darker Than Wax for a bit because they really loved our space. So we would have, I think we had Daryl come, Kay, we had a few people come through. So we did that several times, which that was also part of us realizing that we like partnering, we like hosting. But we had this blowout birthday for me post-COVID, and our fridge was like rammed with food. It was insane how much food people came with. And it was... commented that that was actually a sign of how much people loved us and wanted to exchange with us. And so I remember looking at Civ and being like, we can't do this at the house anymore. We need to go and move this into a club.
Yes.
And so when we started our first event, which is kind of had its own pathway called Friendly Waters.
Yes.
It started off the back of a trip to the U.S. and then like we literally piggybacked it to KL, and Siv got super inspired to throw our first party, and one of his old friends slash inspos, JB, was in town, and he had like a week to plan it.
Yeah.
And he just pulled it together because he was like, you know what? Like, I've waited so long to do this. Let's go.
Yeah.
And the one thing he was struggling to figure out what to do was what to name it.
Okay.
And we'd been tossing around Friendly Waters for a while. I honestly thought it was going to be the name for like a venue.
Yes.
And, you know, at first he wasn't so keen, but we kept coming back to it. And it just felt like a really nice, it's an inviting name, like literally Friendly Waters.
Yeah.
And that party has taken different shapes over time. We first wanted to be a deep house night.
Yeah.
Because, you know, house was becoming a bit more prevalent. So we were like, no one's doing like just deep house all night. But then we quickly realized, as much as we love the scene here, not a lot of DJs understood the kind of deep house that we were looking for.
Yep.
It's a hard brief to fill. And I also don't know that there was totally a market to listen to it all the time, even though that party was once a month.
Yeah.
So it ended up shifting, and where it is now, it's predominantly focused on Asian-based talent as well as a bit of the Asian diaspora. So that was really about us embracing the regional community and giving them a platform to be highlighted in Singapore, as well as anywhere that civilian affairs goes. For example, we're involved with some conferences. We talk about that brand specifically so people know that there's a ton of talent here and can pay attention to that.
Yes. So much to get into.
Yeah.
Talk to me about early Friendly Waters, because I think I went to one of the ones at Cult Cafe in Turf City, which is obviously no longer around.
Yeah, shame.
But talk me through like those early vibes, like how you set the scene, why you picked the venue, stuff like that.
The venue was a bit of happenstance. Siv worked with the Cult crew towards the end of the pandemic, and we had a really nice rapport with Tom Shelsu, also now not in Singapore, which is a shame because he was a real beacon for us here.
Yes.
And he really liked supporting different things. And we came out of COVID realizing there were a lot of great parties going on, like super things happening at clubs. But, we actually wanted to do something specific to the community. So it was a free party, or like donations welcome, but we weren't expecting it. And it was the first Thursday of the month.
Yes.
And so because it was out in Turf City, which for those watching was this like beautiful kind of green area on the upper west side of Singapore, and it's unfortunately been taken over for redevelopment. But we really loved that it was a bit set aside, so it was almost like an automatic filter.
Yes.
If you were coming, even though it was a free party, you were coming for the music or to hang, because like it was a bit of a trek to get there. And then by having a free party, which unfortunately was not sustainable in the long term, it was a really smart way for us to launch, because it meant we were accessing all socioeconomic levels. And that's a big thing for me. I think music and dance is so important to our emotional well-being and even our physical health.
Yes.
Which I know we'll get into that in a bit. I didn't want people, especially people who were skint after not being able to potentially work during COVID, I wanted them to feel at least once a month they could go somewhere and it'd be outdoors and like good music and a vibe, and they didn't have to pay anything if they couldn't afford it. So that was kind of the ethos that we walked into.
Super fun. And then what was the transition? Because like next time I saw Friendly Waters, it was Eat Something, it was Boat Key. That was fun.
So we did it a few times at Eat Something at the bottom floor of headquarters, which again, for people who are not based in Singapore watching, there's a great little enclave that's basically now 4 stories owned by the same gentleman, Clement, who's fantastic. So HQ headquarters is a near and dear place for Siv and I. We actually met downstairs years ago, and we realized 2 things were not working. Being out in Bukit Timah ultimately, or Turf City, ultimately did not. It worked as a first place, but then over time we saw it becoming a bit prohibitive, and attendance started to drop. Eventually, a free party model was not going to work for us, but I think the ones that Eat Something, we still did them for free.
I think so.
And so we just explored bringing it into town, and that's when we were developing our other brands as well. So we started to realize like not everything is going to be rooted in Friendly Waters. There was a concept, Celestial Seasonings, which is about a sound we were hearing, basically all around Asia, but not necessarily a lot in Singapore.
Yeah.
And then there's Chocolate City, which is Civ's baby, which I can't go we typically don't give away what that one's about, but what I'll say is if you look at the lineups, you can kind of get the gist of who we're trying to create a platform for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also that's where I lost my co-founder Andy one night because he met so many people he enjoyed, and that was a really fun night at, was it Etta?
Etta. Oh, yeah, that was our first Chocolate City.
That was a good one.
That was really good. I mean, the setup was a bit booky, but like, in fact, that venue, it's a shame. They really haven't figured it out. I think it's changed ownership again.
Yes.
And it's just like we've thrown two or three parties there, and I love the space. But from a logistical point of view, it's never really smooth.
Yeah.
They tend to have really expensive drinks, which that's something we try to avoid. Again, love your community. We know that we have a wide range of income earners.
Yeah.
And so we don't want people to feel like, oh, I can only really have, I mean, not that we're trying to make people drunk at an event, but I don't want you to feel like, oh, I can't afford the drinks here.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the vibe we're going for.
Yeah, I
most
hear
of our
you.
events.
So, how did you, because I've been to a lot of Friendly Waters and your other events. When did things start to kind of change for you? Like what did you have to do behind the scenes to make some changes?
Okay. One thing that I highly value. Hey, friends, we have some viewers here. One of the loudest just walked in.
It's a live podcast.
Hey, as we go. So with the Civ and I take daily walks with our dog.
Cool.
And that tends to be a place where we go and exchange ideas, talk about what's working, what's not working.
Yep.
So that's sort of the arena of change, if you will.
Yeah.
I think, when we develop the different brands, we've been seeing which brands take a bit more marketing and notice,
Yep.
which ones require less attention, I guess
Yep.
is the best way to describe it. Also, you're asking about how we evolve the brands. I think we do a lot of check-ins. I think
Yep.
that's the best way to describe it. Before and after the gig. On the back end, I think I'm lucky. I get to do a lot of the creative, fun stuff. So
Yes.
working with our amazing designer Allie on what are the concepts for the different posters, how are we marketing this on Instagram. Civ does a lot of the operational stuff. So
Yep.
liaising with agents. If we're placing ads for
Yep.
anything, working that out. So it's been really nice because it's funny, in my professional world, I've usually been the technical one.
Oh, yes.
So it's been really cool that with this project, he takes on the more technical work so far.
Yep.
And I've been doing a bit more of the creative elements of it.
Fun. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Friendly Waters, making it bigger, making it paid for model, moving to clubs, booking big DJs. That doesn't happen overnight. How did some of that stuff come about?
Sure. I think we're really big on exchanges.
Yep.
We work with all different types of markets, right? And that's not just true for Friendly Waters. That's across all three brands.
Yep.
It really helps that both Civ and I have been playing locally and regionally. Civ's had a quite large profile for several years.
Yes.
I think I started to have a bit more clout after being featured in Vogue. It allowed us to have bigger conversations because we had bigger profiles.
Yep.
And also we were involved in conferences. So, I took civilian affairs to ADE. And
Super
while
cool.
there weren't a ton of people there from our community saw that. And actually, when I say our community, I'm not just talking Singapore. The Asian community saw that
Yep.
we were trying to big up, but also protect, because it was interesting on that chat. Sorry, this is a bit of a red herring. It was actually technically an APAC chat.
Yep.
And I was I think I was the only person from Asia, which was a bit odd, but in a nice way.
Yeah.
And what was actually remarkable is, so the way it was, instead of it being a traditional panel, we all had a brief sort of intro, and then it was almost like speed dating, people could ask us questions.
Oh, cool.
And I was just shocked at the amount of people that just wanted to ask me, how do I get booked in Asia?
Right.
And I was like, meh. You don't ask me what are the clubs like, what are the fans like, you just want to know how to get booked. And we try to avoid being too transactional. I think
Yes.
that's set us up in a good way. It's given us a good reputation. In terms of moving the needle on monetization, we played with different ticket tiering. It's been a while since we've thrown a party, so I can't remember where we left it, but if I pulled up our spreadsheet, I
Yep.
can pull it up. And then again, working around in town and we're quite venue agnostic,
Yes.
if you will. And I think that allows us some freedom in terms of how we plug and play and how we can receive opportunities from abroad,
Yeah.
whether it's in Asia or out. It allows us to find the right home for that artist as well. I'm not sure if that really answered what you were looking for.
No, I think so.
Okay.
And then, like for you, I guess I've been to a lot of your parties in the last couple of years. So, like, talking about some of the highlights. It doesn't necessarily have to be like bangers on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Like some of this stuff is like the magic in between.
Totally. Probably one of my favorite parties, just generally, and it doesn't help that it's like my own little Nepo baby, is Celestial Seasonings.
Yes.
Siv and I figured out, I think it was 2022, that we wanted to throw this party with this sort of like ethereal, acidy sound. That's the best way for me to describe it. It's that sort of doofy progressive house that's been coming quite popular lately.
Yeah.
But this is, almost 3 years ago. It was a bit less around. And we were going around with names, and I was like, babe, I really want to call it Celestial Seasonings. And he goes, no, it's 4 or 5 syllables. No one's going to say it. It's such a mouthful. And I'm like, watch me.
Yes.
So we launched that in tandem with my birthday. So it actually worked out perfectly because, the year before we'd done this big birthday party at the house. Now we're like, hey, we're bringing it to the club.
Yes.
And we brought Manic from the Equation Savage crew.
Cool.
And it was just beautiful. Like, Tough was packed out. It was my first headline set. Not headline, like peak time set, I guess, because I played at midnight. And then to watch Manic just orchestrate this set of a closing, and there was still, I think, 30 or 40 people on the dance floor when he closed, which I don't feel like we have the biggest closing crowds, to be honest. I feel like people like to kind of mug off around 3:30.
Yes.
So that was a really special party for us. Another really special booking, although technically it was not under us. This was facilitated with what was then Potato Head Singapore, Pam Anantra coming out.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Pam.
Pam is a legend. We really like working with her, and we've brought her back since, actually, for I think it was Friendly Waters. Because again, she was so magical. But what was cool was, the second floor of what was then Potato Head, now 1939. It's a really cute space. I think it's a bit underrated, and I'm not getting paid to say that. I play there under my duo with Folie à Deux with Aaron Kahn, so I can see when it comes to life. But Pam brought it to another level, and it was cool because you had regulars at Potato Head, you had people who were just trying to find something different on Gyeongsak, and then you had a bunch of the heads come in.
Yeah, they all showed up.
Yeah, she's very well respected. So to just see that sort of amalgamation of people come together, and I don't think I've ever seen it that busy on that floor. It was really, really nice. So those would definitely be 2 standout magic moments for me. Definitely.
How cool.
Oh, one more, sorry. Seabass.
Okay.
Closing, we did an exchange with the Sash crew from Sydney.
Ah, yes, I remember that one.
And we threw that event at Behind the Green Door. Again, not the touch and go with their closing crowd.
Yeah.
And this guy Seabass, he's one of the residents for Climax.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are familiar with Dita, Giro, and Archie. But Seabass is kind of like this dark horse, unsung hero.
How fun.
And he played this wild closing because he kept it, I think, at 1-2-2, 1-2-3.
Yeah.
But it was still this really nice, heavy house sound.
Yeah.
And he had people staying all the way through. So that was really, really cool to see. Very much a master at work.
Nice. Cool. Okay. And if I think about this next pillar of ours, which is celebrate the culture, for me, that just means play good music. So to other people, it can mean other things. If you think of this whole celebrating this thing that we do, what does that mean to you?
I mean, to me, it's shouting. It's about being vocal about your community. If you want to celebrate it, I'm a vocal person. So, yes, gather and come together and honor each other, but also when you have the mic, shout about your friends. You know? So that's how I've started to leverage the Friendly Waters brand. I just did, tea burps, not the best thing for a podcast.
It's good tea.
It's a delicious tea. I did Headstream Potato Head Bali's live stream radio.
Oh yeah, with your special guest.
Yeah,
outside.
Oh no, that was the first one.
Okay.
That was wild. For those of you who did not see, we had actually go to our Instagram page. You can find it there.
I think that guy was English.
Yeah, he 100% was. 100% was not a community, not part of the community. Clearly. No. Anyway, so I went back and did another Friendly Waters show, and that one I did entirely music from Asian artists.
How cool.
And so I feel like that's a really good way to celebrate your community, is put them on.
Yep.
You know, so we have so many incredible producers around the region and even Singapore, and like it means a lot to me to try and put on the new music and even old music that comes from this region. I think that's a really important part of celebrating it.
Totally. Just in my experience, like I've been here almost 13 years, but still, like, my experience is, I don't know, like I feel like I didn't look hard enough at the beginning, and I feel like by being part of this project that we're doing and meeting new people, I'm finding out about all the great DJs. How have you found about all these people?
Well, getting scooped up by one of Singapore's hottest DJs, like before you even live in the country, kind of helps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Civ and I were introduced 3 months before I moved here, and man was hot on the case as soon as I got here. So I basically got like the cliff notes off the bat. You know
How
what
cool.
I mean? So I was immediately, and what I really love about Civ is he has definitely earned his stripes with some of the legends. So
yep.
when you look at Ramesh, Brendan P, Joshua P, all the Yuli, who's sitting over there as well.
Yep.
He's indoctrinated with those guys, but he's also really open to what's fresh and new. Who are the young people coming in? And I think that's a really important way to celebrate the community, is realize the dynamic of your community will change.
Yes.
And the more you can do to support the youth coming in, it's a really important thing to share your power. It does not lessen it when you do.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And yeah, shout out to Civ. He's definitely helped me a lot with 4 Floors and all of our bookings.
He's an incredible curator. Like, he knows
yes.
his shit when it comes. Oh, I don't know if we're supposed to swear, but
we can do that.
Cool. And so yeah, I mean, it was definitely a crash course in Civinesh when I moved here. Like, I was going to mostly his gigs, but through that, I was meeting a lot of the other punters, a lot of the promoters, a lot of the other DJs. So just by being a good DJ girlfriend, I got introduced into a very different side of Singapore than most expats experience. And also, by default, most of my friends were Singaporean. You know, I didn't come in with an expat crew. In fact, to this day, I only have a few expat friends, which is not like me chasing local clout or anything. It's just kind of the
just
way
how it is.
My social dynamic has unfolded.
Yes.
You know?
No, totally. And do you think what do you think has changed over the last few years in terms of the region, the DJs that are coming through, people who are coming here? Because, I don't know, I've noticed a change myself, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
Starting with Singapore specifically, I'm really delighted to see what looks like an expansion of sounds. You know, it felt quite limited to mostly melodic and techno before COVID, and I feel that I mean, this is an assumption, but it feels like people really got a chance to explore different sounds during their time in lockdown. So I definitely say we've seen this sort of blossoming in terms of maturity and depth and variety. But with that has also come a huge influx of new promoters, new DJs, etc., which I'm all for it. I think one place that we still struggle a little bit locally is developing audience, right? And getting people involved, because a lot of kids who came of age during COVID, they're not necessarily into clubbing, and we can touch on that in a second. Moving to the region, there is definitely a harnessing of regional power. There's a deeper understanding of our strength here. You can tell that the West is paying attention to this part of the world, and now a lot of DJs, they come here for their winters. They escape.
Oh yeah.
They escape their winters either in Australia or Asia or both. And there's some pros and cons to that. You know, it helps further this development of other sounds that can be showcased. Where I hope we're careful is that we don't idolize these foreign DJs, and we realize that we have people of the same or even better talent here. And there's a lot, I mentioned earlier how we like to work in exchanges. And there's a lot of different collectives doing that. And when you look at some of the sort of smaller boutique festivals, such as like Equation or even Sunda this year, great job doing mostly regional acts.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, and different ones. That's what's also good.
Yeah.
Just hit the mic. And I think that's really important. One thing I hope we can avoid in Asia, I feel like when you go to festivals in just European summertime, a lot of the big ones at least, it's the same DJs, whole route. I'm hoping that there's enough diversity in this region that, you know, we can still support all regional, but have it be dappled and different.
Yeah.
Right? So I'd say that's sort of my analysis of what's changed in Singapore and then what's changed in Asia. And then if we actually look at APAC, which tends to be a business acronym more than an actual cultural model.
It gives me like PTSD from my old job.
I do believe in putting the A in APAC, right? Australia. And I think, you know, it used to be, from what I understand, quite one-sided.
Yeah.
You know, Australians came here, Asians not so much down there.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing the tides turn there a bit. Sash was a great example.
Yeah.
They booked us. I know they booked Zealand in late last year. And we're actually heading down to Australia next week to do a couple of gigs. And Pam's down there at the same time. So I think they're understanding, there's a better geographic understanding that we have a lot of leverage when we join together with a Western market like Australia.
Yeah, also, looking at our SoundCloud stats from last year, Melbourne's our third most popular city behind Berlin.
Wow.
Also, we've got people like Ra down there.
Yeah. And she's been a great advocate for like, she just did a party with, I think it was Jerry Poon, who's an old Singaporean who lives in Melbs or Narm, and he runs the Operatives. So he did a party with her. They brought down Kiat, and like I think it was with Mixed Mag. So she's been an amazing advocate, and I think we're going to see that as people, you know, Singapore's quite transient. So as people move to other parts, they're hopefully going to keep activating the communities from afar.
Totally, and hopefully I won't get in trouble for this, but the Proto guys have booked Ani, Phoebe.
Ooh.
So that's coming up this year. So yeah, like lots of exchange, which I think is good. Mm-hmm. So I'm just think it's cool that all these kind of strong local crews who are kind of independent are exchanging a lot more. That seems to be super interesting.
Yeah.
But if you were, let's say you are one of these, let's say you are a DJ sat in Berlin, you really like the idea of a winter out here, and you want to get gigs. Like what do you suggest? Like, because, you know, I think it's very good, some of the energy we've got around making sure we've got talent here. But I do think there are lots of friends we have who live in Berlin or the US or UK who do come out here, who do play nicely. Totally. Like, talk to me about the people that you know, like what we think is a good way to kind of do that.
Yeah, I think there's a few ways. First off, plan way ahead.
Yes.
Like, we're in January now. Quite frankly, coming out and trying to do something in the next 3 months is probably not a great idea.
Yeah.
Also, by getting a head start and planning way in advance, it's not just you can go, hey, I know I want to be in these parts of Asia. You can find the right crews and the right collectives to participate in. If you're involved in a party or a radio show, offering that as sort of part of your negotiation is probably a good move. I think really what I understand and what I like to see is involvement in the community. So you don't just come into Singapore for 2 nights. You come for a week or 2.
Yep.
There's this term getting thrown around now, slow touring, right?
Nice.
So a couple of people who've done it really well. There's a woman, Vio, from Berlin, who came out.
Oh, she was fun.
Yeah, she did one of your radio shows,
Yeah.
And she was great, right? Like, she came here. Siv knows her from Refuge.
Yeah.
So he booked her at, I don't know if it was Potato Head or 1939, but at that venue at that
1939
time.
at the time.
Yeah, that was at that time. And then I know she played Off Track, and then she, you know, I actually didn't meet her when she was in town. I think I was sick, but she came to my recording at Potato Head Bali, and like you could just see she was really invested in getting to know the people. And so, like, you know, after my radio show, we had a nice meal at the restaurant, and she was telling me about some of this experience. And you know, we're both ex-people. I'm in the music industry. She's in the music industry still, but was on the more technical side like I was before. So we were sort of sharing war stories, if you were. And like, she just made a really good point to not just come and play, but to get involved. And I think that's a really good example. Another woman who's really good at this is Teodora Van Context. She's I think she's from Atypic agency, and I believe she's from, I want to say somewhere in Eastern Europe. I'm blanking on where, but she spent a lot of time in both Vietnam and Thailand. The first time I saw her play was at Fly to the Moon in Koh Mak, and like she comes out here. When she comes out, it's not a quick trip, right? She's here for 2 months. So I think that's the other thing. Plan ahead and plan on being here for a chunk of time. You know, unless you're in like Singapore or posh parts of Bali or Tokyo, things tend to be a little bit less expensive than Europe, so you can afford to be out here a little bit longer and get to know people and get to know the customs and you know, get to a point where people welcome you back. And one last example is Retro Migration. He comes out here every year and does a bit of a slow tour, and then we went to play at our friend Roshan's Saturday Slick's 8th birthday last year, and Retro was actually staying on his couch, you know. So I think that's a really nice way to do it. Like, become brethren with the people here, so that it doesn't feel like you're just some out-of-towner who wants to play. You become part of that community. Yeah, and also, there's some pretty epic venues out here, right? So not just venues. I'm gonna put my head out there and say we have better festivals. Okay. Now, it depends on what you like at a festival. I'm not one of those, like, I've done Park Life, right, which is, I think, is like 50,000 people, something crazy like that. Yeah. I've done the big format festivals. I still go to Wonderfruit, which I am actually super impressed with its evolution. But when you talk about cute, random, 1,000-person or less festivals that are in, like, absolutely glorious locations, I think Asia's really got that down pat. Yes. And I think there's also, because nefarious things are so illegal here, everything's a bit more relaxed. You don't have just people up in your face all the time. Yeah. It's I don't know. It's a really beautiful community that comes together around Asia and follows these festivals, right? You have Equation, you have Organic. Even RDC isn't that big, if I understand correctly. We played at a single. The guy doesn't market it as a festival, but it might as well be. The place we played at Secret Temple in Bali. That looked really fun. Yeah, it's multiple stages in this gorgeous family sanctuary, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful vibe. So I would say we actually, not only do we have really epic venues such as RASA, but we have really, really unique festivals. Okay, so what we're saying is you don't even have to be a DJ. Like, if you're sat on your couch at home in Europe and it's cold, consider having a holiday and a festival all in one. 100%. Okay. Yeah. Well, look at, and don't just go to, you know, they just had EDC Thailand last weekend, right? Don't just look at the big brand names, because one thing that's happening in the industry right now is like these big IPs from the US and Europe are basically being bought and produced here in Asia. So we're going to continue seeing more of that. Look, if you're a commercial baby and that's what you like, I'm not here to judge. Yep. But if you really want a unique experience, poke around for what little small thing is going on, right? Like, I took my mom to Fly to the Moon. That one, how fun. It was a bit bigger this year. The year I took her, I think it was less than 500 people. Okay. And it's just, it's intimate. It's on an island in the middle of nowhere. You just go from like beach venue to beach venue. Yep. So yeah, 100%. Don't just come for a vacation. Find a cute music festival to boot. Nice. And where would you even find out about these things, and how do you find out about the good ones? Like, help someone kind of discern like how to make their selection. Like, you should know what you like to listen to, and or be extremely exploratory. Because I'd say, like, we went to Karma Castle right after COVID. Yeah. And it was quite techno heavy, and we didn't really know what to expect. So it was like either super techno or super ambient. Yep. We loved the people there. The community was really beautiful. The Karma Clique out of Thailand, they actually donate a lot of the proceeds to different charities. So like really, really good community elements there. But from a music standpoint, it was a bit harder than our taste tends to lean. Yes. If you're into house, I definitely think Equation's Garden does a lot for people. Yep. But you know, they also offer the techno side in the cave. So I think knowing what you like will help you go in the right direction in terms of looking for the right festival. Okay, super helpful. And then here's something that I'm trying to pay a bit more attention to. This is our like third pillar, but there's no one favorite here. Is inspire the continuum. And the reason why continuum for me is there's this great
writer called Simon Reynolds, who talks about this kind of spirit of underground music. And when I was reading about this, it was like, for a time, the spirit existed in hardcore music, then it moved to jungle, then it moved to like early garage, and so it always exists in this kind of underground like dance music piece. So I really like kind of following where the energy's going, where the innovation's going in music. But also for me, continuum can mean, like trying to pass on this kind of how to kind of interact in this world, like Siv and I working on 4 Floors, how to bring these generations together, how to celebrate these older DJs who used to play in these massive clubs, and how to provide opportunities for these younger DJs, or kind of put them on when they've got their own collectives going on. That's what continuum means to me. Like, how do you see it?
I think I see it in a really similar way. I know we've had a lot of conversations about, especially me wanting to see more younger non-male DJs. I think
Yes.
we don't have a huge non-binary or trans community in Singapore, so I guess it's not totally surprising we don't see more of that in the DJ scene. So I guess I'll limit it a little more. Like, I'm excited to see more of the women that are coming out.
Yeah.
So
And I guess just in terms of what I see, like there's people like Endless Return, they've got great collectives.
Totally, and it could be that they're out there and just not on my radar. So
Yeah.
I'm totally aware that I'm not as tapped into the queer scene.
Yeah.
What I'm more wanting to make the point of is that I've always been passionate about non-male DJs taking more space.
Yes, please.
And so right now, I think since we first started this conversation about more women playing, I think we have seen some really great women come up into the ranks and playing the clubs. Women like Show and Tell's playing a lot.
Yes.
Kristen's doing the whole bass thing, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah.
There's a few others. MZ,
Yes.
Which I'm very pleased that we didn't give her big break per se, but I think her first proper club set was at Celestial Seasonings.
Cool.
And I know that put her on the map for some of the other promoters.
So cool. And also you've got people like Ella, you've got April in here.
Exactly.
On this huge system. Like, I think it's great.
Yeah.
So cool.
So in terms of continuum, I just want to make sure that we're making pathways or giving space to women to feel they can come in and learn.
Yep.
I also think, I said this earlier, and I don't think the older generation right now is unique to this. I feel this happens in a cyclical way, that every older generation gets a bit cagey about their power and
Yep.
I don't know about bringing up these younger people. And one thing, again, that I really enjoy about my partner is he's never seen bringing up young people as an issue.
Yep.
Like, you got to earn your stripes. If you're good, you're good.
Yeah.
I don't know what you've done to get that good, but
Yep.
if you're good, you're good. If you got selections, you got good transitions. If you
Yep.
know how to, the most important thing, you know how to read a room, and that's the hardest one to actually refine, right?
Yep.
Because you need to be playing out in order to gain that skill.
Yeah.
So for us, I think we've just been about, like, if someone's solid and they fit the sound or the lineup that we're going for, we don't really care how old or young they are. We
Yep.
want to just give them that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And also what I would say is some of these younger crews are booking like our peers. You've got the 5 to 10 crew. They're booking people like Kevin and Bongo Man and all our, like a lot of our mates.
Yeah,
so like
celebrating the community.
yeah, so I think that these younger crews are like, they're busy, they've got a bunch of mates, they've got good energy, they're finding all these really interesting spots, and then they're booking DJs that they like to hear. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
What's your advice though? Like, if you were a female identifying DJ at the moment, or you're someone who has like a music taste, I don't know, maybe you're not even DJing at the moment. Like, what would you say to those people?
It really depends on where they are.
Okay.
Because one thing I thought was really interesting, I just spent 6 weeks in New York last year, and I was really itching to play out a bit. I was booking studios to practice, but I really wanted to, that play out chair.
Yeah.
And I was really delighted to find, listed on Resident Advisor, by the way, tons of open deck opportunities. So for the people that have touch decks, or the bedroom DJs who want to venture out, look for open deck opportunities, and especially within the female or different identifying. It doesn't even have to just be female identifying, right? Queer. There's actually in many bigger cities, they have open decks specific to that community, and I think that's a really nice, safe space for that. I think if you are like just getting it together or just learning about music and what you like, coming to community nights that exist, chatting. Don't be scared to chat with people online who are sharing music that you like. I can't tell you how many friends I have from fangirling online, like AKA. I loved what she was DJing. I loved how she presented herself online. This was during COVID. I just gave her a blank, like, yeah, I slid in her DMs.
Yeah,
but
shout out
really,
Amanda.
Shout out Amanda. And I was just really respectful about it, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, hey, I want that. If you come to it with like this shared love of music, it's very rare that someone will push you away.
Yeah.
At least a good person, I don't think, would push you away.
Yeah, that's how I met everyone. Like, as a mid-30s dude, just messaging other guy DJs saying, I have a very small room. I also like house music. Do you want to come and hang out? Was weird, but was weird. It was weird, but I also I think there's something to be said about not being like afraid of like loving the same thing as someone else. That's a really good place to start.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I also think if you have any aspirations to be in this space, and whether it's DJing or radio, or if you kind of want to be in a scene space, you and you're shy, you're going to have to explore that a bit with yourself. You know what I mean? Because this is not, there's room for shy people. I'm not saying if you're shy, you shouldn't get involved. But I'm saying, especially if you think you want to DJ, if you're going to have a bit of gumption to make some of those first connections, especially.
But I think it's really helpful. Like, a lot of the DJs I know are quite softly spoken people. They're quite like...
Oh, yeah, you don't have to be like all gregarious all the time, but you do have to be brave enough to share your truth or your love. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of vulnerable, right?
Yeah, totally.
There's a few people that I've noticed, because I see me in them, and I think that's so maybe part of what continuum means to me is like, how do we build things and how do we do things where if it existed for me 20 years ago, it'll make my life easier. I think it's always a bit quite fun. Yeah. And then I quite like challenging some of these younger DJs to say like, oh, maybe you should do this, or like, what's that? Tell me about a plan.
I'm a bit more of that. I'm more of a nurturer, coddler. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm not good at the pushing element. I'm more of a let's go.
Fun.
Know? So I think we would make a good duo in that case, because you'd be like, and I'm like, here, I got you. Don't worry.
And I did these personality tests, and there's one of these scales which has like nurturing or tough. And Andy is like the most nurturing.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm the most tough.
Yeah, I can see that.
In a nice way. Yeah. I think I'm just like, I put people on. I hear like one good track, and I will book them for like a street party. And then I hear from their friends that they're terrified.
Yeah. Understandably, it was one track. But also, I've been doing this now. It's so funny. I think people have a perception I've been doing this a lot longer than I have.
Yes.
I'm a COVID DJ.
Yes.
I still get really fucking scared.
Yes.
Especially like I was opening for a good friend of mine who's now become a bit of a global legend, Had a Dream. I opened for him New Year's Eve, and my previous time playing at that same setup, it was honestly probably one of my worst gigs ever.
Okay.
Just the setup was hard, and I was using my lollipop, which was a mistake. So I really wanted to go in and smash it. And I knew that this mate of mine, who I've known Ahad for maybe 7-8 years. We're not like homies, but we've been in touch. And the last time he played in Singapore, I didn't know how to DJ. Now I did. So I wanted to see him, I wanted him to see me rock it.
Yes.
So I got super scared. So I for all the new and aspiring DJs watching this, it's okay getting scared is just part of the process. Eventually it'll get less and less, but it is totally part of the process.
I get nervous when I play at Rumors.
Yeah. No one's listening. And actually, I don't know who listens at Rumors? Well, it's important to have the music, but no one's going to catch anything technical, right?
I don't know. Someone asked me the other day, instead of what I was playing, did I have disco or R&B? So.
And did you?
No. I did the grumpy DJ thing and said no, sorry.
Well, on that, I played my mentor's birthday party.
Yes.
And I was playing with a girlfriend who also was close with her. And we had done a quick rehearsal earlier in the day. But when we were watching this party, these are people mostly in their 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Music people.
Yeah.
Party people. But we'd been partying since 4 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And our set was at 2 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And I could just tell if we went too avant-garde, we were going to lose. Like, the whole point of us playing was to actually retain the friends, like
yes.
keep everybody going all night. And this woman, she's incredible. She told me, she's like, keep it accessible.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from another friend who also said, look, if you don't keep it accessible as a DJ, you're not necessarily doing your job.
Yes.
Which I think it's important, because sometimes we get in our head and we're like, but I want to educate. Sometimes you're there to make people dance.
Yeah.
And so we both had a laugh, because what we had prepared versus what we ended up playing. Like, I ended up playing like your Soul Searcher, Madonna edit, like just some more basic, but also fun music. And I was thankful though that I have that in my arsenal, because I'm a contextual player, and as much as I would love to play what I want all the time, as I just said, sometimes the mission is to keep people moving their asses. You know?
Some guilty pleasures is great.
Yeah.
And what I hear a lot from you around these people who are your mentors, that for me is sounds like part of the continuum. Like, you're learning from them. So talk to me about that, about these people. How do you meet them? What sort of relationship do you have with them?
Sure. The first one's going to be easier. The second one, we'll see if I can talk about it. Jane Slingo is my main mentor. She is the producer, the head of owner of EMC Australia, which was the Electronic Music Conference of Australia in Sydney.
How cool.
I met her very much by chance, because I was supposed to go to a music festival, but my work trip got changed on the dates, and somebody in the office said, well, I know you can't go to Subsonic, but you should check out this conference.
Yep.
And even though I was working for Spotify at the time, I was working in their ads business. That was my first proper foray into music business. Like, I'd read articles and stuff like that, but like learning about publishing rights, learning about scenes in China, learning about the scene, Bali being compared to Ibiza. Like, it was a really interesting conference, and I had a little liquid courage at the closing party.
Oh yeah.
And I went running up to her. I was like, hi, my name's Lillian. I went to your conference. I learned so much. I really enjoyed everything. And she's like, oh, thank you. And she said, hey, who do you work for? And I said, oh, Spotify. She's like, I saw your name on the list. I'm like, before you get excited, I don't work on the music side. Like, I just came here to learn. She goes, let me buy you a drink. And again, speak your truth and have the gumption to speak your truth. When we were having the drink, not that I needed another one, I said to her, I was like, may I give you some honest feedback? And she said, yes. I said, you positioned this as a bit more APAC oriented. And I went to 2 really interesting discussions about music in Asia, but it was all white men on the panels. And I said, they may hold the purse strings, but they definitely do not drive the culture. So and now I've heard that it's good that I met Jane when I did, because she was very receptive to that. And she immediately took my information, and I ended up becoming a committee, like a curation. I was on the curation committee. I've mediated for her on some of the panels, and now I'm on the advisory board.
How cool.
And now that I'm in this interesting transition deeper into my artistry, she's holding my hand in that process, because she's also been an artist. She actually manages Sampology.
Okay. How cool.
My second mentor, who sadly passed away this year.
Yes.
Yeah, Adam Matthews. We met him, I think it was sort of pseudo through Jane, but he used to run the Wired Music Week in Asia.
Yep.
And actually, it was before COVID. Siv was supposed to speak in the conference, and he was booked for a party. And it was actually the last weekend that Malaysia was open.
Wow.
Before COVID got clamped. And we went out there, and even though the conference was canceled, Adam made a point to meet with Siv and I.
Yeah.
And he just stayed in touch with us. And for people who know Adam Matthews, he's a giant in the space of Malaysia. He spent time in the UK, came back, was booking everybody from like Mos Def to the Beastie Boys, but also has like deeply rooted in the trance scene and the dance scene, was a marketing whiz. And he was one of the people who really drove that Asia first narrative for us, and helped us really deepen that. And also my commitment to, sorry, and I'm still getting choked up. During COVID, there were quite a few DJs in like Malaysia and Indonesia that were committing suicide because they had no income.
Yeah.
And Jane, Adam, and I had a weekly call to discuss how can we address the mental health sort of crisis among DJs. And we developed what was supposed to be this nonprofit called AKAR, which means root. But sadly, what ended up happening was by the time we got it together and we understood our formation, we were coming out of COVID, and the needs of DJs were really, really different than what we were going to focus on.
Yes.
And then all three of us ended up getting wrapped up in our now very busy worlds. But both those mentors were really key for me to just even get through the week sometimes during COVID.
Yes. Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot. Sorry.
No. But we talk about health and wellness a lot, and maybe that's something that we could. Well, that feels like that's
a whole other
10-hour conversation. But like, talk to me like about like obviously health and wellness is a big part of you and what you're doing, and we talk a lot about some of the things that we try and do together. But like, where do you think health and wellness is within the DJing scene? Like, what does it mean to you? What are you seeing in terms of some of the needs of like the people around us? Yeah, like however you want to bite that off.
Wow, like we said, there's a lot to chew. Unsurprisingly, I think music creatives and nightlife people tend to have difficult lifestyles. And that also might mean making decisions that compromise their health.
Yes.
So staying up late, not having access to healthy food late, and being too tired to cook or not knowing how to cook.
Yeah.
If you're touring, God, that does everything from, the pressure of what the actual pressure does to your body when you're on the plane versus your jet lag versus sleeping in a random bed that's not yours with, incorrect pillows. Like, these are all, they sound like small things, but when you accumulate them over time, it's no wonder we are seeing a lot of DJ greats globally passing away in their 50s and 60s.
Yes.
Right? So one of the panels I mediated for EMC, I think it was actually the first one, it was talking about the intersection of creativity and mental health.
Yeah.
And music and mental health. And there was a really interesting researcher who was talking about actually there's this very symbiotic relationship that if you are a deeply creative person, there tends to be some mental deviation. Sounds strong, but you tend to be wired a little differently, right? Yeah. And then he proceeded to talk about also when you compound the lifestyle choices that go with that, how that suddenly becomes this really difficult exchange. And I'll never forget, he was talking about how roadies are 60% more likely to commit suicide than your average person.
Wow.
And, that's everything from isolation, poor health, not usually great pay. And it made me realize, because I've been involved in the health and wellness community for a long time. Like, I was a yoga teacher 20 years ago, and my mom was really ahead of her time when it came to understanding food and nutrition. So it's been a big pillar of mine. And I suddenly had this aha moment that, like, all the things we talk about in health and wellness are really aimed at these 9 to 5, the general masses.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of resources or tools or education for people who are in music, nightlife, or creative industries.
Yeah.
So I'm currently, as we've talked about this before, I'm doing this health coaching certificate. And what I really want to do is I want to create protocols and pathways that make it more easy for these people in these lifestyles to make healthier choices.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's such a big one.
It is. It is. But what's also interesting, sorry, just a quick introduction. The other thing is it's so important to keep these people healthy because, as I said earlier, music and dance is such an important part of not just personal health and well-being, but social health and well-being. So you can't have the people who are driving it being ill.
Yes.
So like we gotta.
Yeah, and I do think it's mad, like this thing, like, I don't know, I feel like music is this kind of amazing art form that kind of gives you all these good benefits, but sometimes it's packaged in these environments that are not healthy for anyone.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I think it's obviously something that I'm really keen to change, and we've done things to try and change these environments. But let's say it's gonna be difficult or a long time in terms of some of these environments changing, in terms of music is more likely to be played at night. It's more likely to be played in nightclubs.
Yep.
It's more likely to be in situations where there's alcohol served, although there might be non-alc options.
Yeah.
If you,
although there's a lot of room for growth on that second part we talked about.
Totally, I hear you. But if you were a DJ at the moment and you're like, look, 50%, 60% of my income comes from DJing at night, what changes would you make, or what things would you do to kind of, I don't know, stay healthy? Like, not.
So I'm a really big believer in bio-individuality.
Okay.
And what that means is that what's going to work for me or you won't work for maybe another person.
Sure.
So I don't want to sit there and be like, DJs do this.
Yeah.
I think the number one thing to focus on when you work in a nighttime economy is how are you sleeping?
Yes.
How long you're sleeping? What's the quality of sleep? Are you dreaming? And there's this misconception that you don't need more than 6 hours, even if you work at night. And I'm like, bro, everybody needs 8 to 9, or you're just gonna get dementia.
Yes.
So like, there's all this research coming out about how important sleep is for your brain to detox. So
Yep.
I would say, if there's one thing to really be sort of focused about
Yep.
as somebody who works in nightlife, it would be your sleeping pattern.
Yeah, totally. And I guess I've seen a lot of this stuff about if you do work at night, it's good to be outside when the sun's setting. If you do finish late, it's good to be almost like kind of flip it.
Yeah.
Good to be like outside when the sun is rising. Just stuff like that. Maybe a bit less sugar than normal.
Yeah, I mean, well, less sugar is always usually a good rule for people. It tends to be, especially high glycemic levels of sugar. So,
Yep.
you know, your white rice, white bread, alcohol, certain fruits, anything that spikes your blood sugar is going to be inflammatory, right? So,
Yep.
like, but that doesn't mean you have to be on a keto diet. It just means like, hey, maybe go for something a bit more whole grain. Right?
Yes.
Not that they have whole grain alcohol.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap. If we're gonna wrap things up now, like maybe like, what are you excited about for this year? So we're at the end of January already, ish.
God, so fast.
Entering the year of the snake. I like the snake because it can be a figure eight. I like the snake because it can be about shedding skins. What are you looking forward to?
So this is the year that the universe gave me my freedom.
Okay.
I was recently retrenched from my work.
Okay.
Which, is an experience. And I am fortunate enough to be in a position where I can actually just pause.
Right.
And take a long pause if I need to. And as I've been settling into my second month of not working, I've realized that I've been waiting like for almost 20 years for this break. So what that means for me, though, is it allows me to pursue what I love.
Right.
So I'm doing this health coaching certificate. I'm going to get back into music production, which kind of fell off when I had a family issue. And I'm really focused on my artistry.
Cool.
And so the other aspect is like, it now gives me a lot more time to focus on civilian affairs because, frankly, we've run it as a side project for 3 years. And I don't know if it's going to be my full-time gig for sure, but I'd love to give it a little bit more love and energy.
How cool.
Yeah. What are you excited about for this year?
So for me, I like the kind of shedding skin moment because I identify like where the pearl has come from is it's getting a bit big. It's feeling a bit like it's felt a bit restricted in its old skin, and now we're kind of starting to be in bigger spaces. We're in RASA. We are moving the studio. We are.
Which looks so cute.
Yes, it's going to be super exciting. We are doing a lot more places like Air. We just moved Immersion to this super cool venue next to Maxwell. So I don't know. It feels like I feel like the original Pearl is a bit like an empty nester at the moment. There's nothing going on there at the moment. We're ready to close, and we're getting bigger. We've got some great people helping us, and I'm asking for a lot more help.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
what I'm looking forward to this year is probably doing a bit more of what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Giving away some of the things in the team to people who can really excel. So we've got some great new residents for community night it's really good to see how they're taking the ball and running with it. Got people like Spencer, who's doing a lot of the programming, and Sufyan, who's helping with a lot of this production that we've got here.
Big up, Sufyan.
And then I asked Belle what she really wanted to do apart from music, and she's like, I want to do more design. So literally tomorrow, Friday, we've got a call between Belle and Effie, who's been doing our design since day one, and we're talking about how like Belle helps us do more.
Yeah, that's
so
great. Talk about continuum.
yes, so like it's just really nice to see, like, because some of these jobs, like, and maybe this is what I really like, is that I'm quite good at letting go of stuff, and I'm letting go of some of the jobs that in my heart of hearts I'm not the best person to do, I'm not very interested in it, but I'm still responsible for it, and then just finding people who love it, and then they just take it to the next level. So, and then, I don't know, I want to do a bit more DJing. I'm finding at the moment when I do DJ, it's the one time I'm not focused on work.
Yeah.
Having some fun hangouts. We did a fun one with Anwar and Mike Risk the other day at Plus 12. That was a really like fun pop up. And yeah, like I think I'm going to try and do a few more sets and then see where it goes. Maybe some main room stuff here.
Hey, I love that. No, I love the shedding skin analogy. I think that's a really apt one, because I got a general consensus, at least within my community, there were a lot of people who had things fall off, especially at the end of last year, whether it was relationships ending, people passing away, jobs sort of dissolving.
Very weird time.
A very weird end to what I gather for a lot of people was quite a challenging year. And so I love that idea of the skin is shed, it's all glistening and lovely and ready to slide on into the next thing.
Yeah, and also I think it's really fun because like the shedding skin stuff is like I've had some chats with the team, like if you like some of the skin that's being shed is dead skin, so you can always focus on the dead skin and be like, oh, this is all terrible, it's all like dead and falling apart, but like I'm actually like, yeah, well, the old studio wasn't really fit for purpose for a lot of these things. And yeah, like moving to RASA, we're changing a few things with community night, but that's like a whole new thing, and like it's a great energy here. So I love it. I think that I'm definitely trying to pay attention to the new life that's coming through, and it's super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, change is constant, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
How fun. Well, Lil, thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for all of the holding us to account in nightlife, and for giving us some sage advice. I think I'm not the only promoter that gets words from you that kind of makes me think. So thank you for being you. Let's do this again soon.
Yeah,
and
long format.
I can't wait to hear your set later.
Yeah,
So
let's go.
let's chat soon.
Yeah,
Thanks everyone.